Relatives and neighbors were anxiously awaiting the return of Siti Aisha, formerly a suspect in the murder case of North Korean leader's half-brother Kim Jong-nam, who was released from all charges this week. Residents of Sindang Sari village in Serang, Baten province, Indonesia, said their prayers had been answered when they learned that Aisha was to return home and had arrived in Jakarta to meet her parents. Aisha, 27, and Duan Thi Huong, 28, a Vietnamese, were charged with killing Kim Jong-nam by smearing his face with VX, a chemical poison banned by the United Nations, at a Kuala Lumpur airport on February 13, 2017. Their defense lawyers had said the killing was politically motivated, with many key suspects linked to the North Korean embassy in Kuala Lumpur, suggesting the women were mere pawns. The women told their lawyers they did not know they were participating in a deadly attack and believed they were carrying out a prank for a reality TV show. The two suspects, both in their 20s, were the only suspects in custody and faced the death penalty if convicted. 4 North Korean men who had fled Malaysia were also charged, and Interpol alerts were issued for their arrest. President Joko Widodo Jokowi met with Siti Aisha, who was freed from the charges of murdering Kim Jong-nam in Malaysia. Jokowi asked Aisha to take a temporary break from work. After attending the meeting at Merdeka Palace, Jakarta, Jokowi said Aisha was at home at first until she was rather calm and could plan her life again. Meanwhile, Aisha delivered a direct thank you. Aisha was accompanied by both her parents and sister. Jokowi also said that Aisha had now been officially handed over to the family. Submission is carried out by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Previously, Aisha returned to Indonesia on Monday, 11th of March, after her charges were revoked. Officials from the International Criminal Court are conducting a preliminary examination in Bangladesh to determine whether a prosecution over the alleged deportations of Rohingya refugees could be mounted against Myanmar, a UN human rights investigator has said. In September 2018, the ICC prosecutor opened a preliminary examination into whether alleged forced deportations of Rohingya from Myanmar could constitute war crimes or crimes against humanity. Bangladesh is a member of the court, although Myanmar rejects its jurisdiction. Despite bad results in recent local elections, Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu remains confident ahead of the country's general election next year, telling the Los Angeles World Affairs Council this week that support for President Tsai Ing-wen has increased since she spoke out against fresh pressure in January to reunite with China. China claims self-ruled and democratic Taiwan is its own and has vowed to bring the island, which it regards as sacred territory, under Chinese control by force if necessary. In a speech in January 2019, Chinese President Xi Jinping said Taiwan must and will be reunited with China. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen from the pro-independence Democratic Progressive Party DPP said the island will not accept any deal that destroys its sovereignty and democracy. Relations with Beijing have deteriorated since Tsai came into office in 2016, with China suspecting that she wants to push for formal independence, a red line for Beijing. China views Taiwan as a wayward province and has never renounced the use of force to bring democratic Taiwan under its control. China says reunification must come under a one China principle that accepts Taiwan as part of China, an anathema to supporters of Taiwan independence, adding that the one country, two systems model of autonomy with which China governs Hong Kong was the best way for Taiwan. Taiwan is gearing up for presidential elections early next year. Tsai's party suffered stinging losses to the China-friendly opposition party Kuomintang in mayoral and local elections in November.
Well, let me start by saying...
The U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, said that diplomacy is still very much alive with North Korea despite the collapse of a summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un last month. Trump and Kim's second summit in Vietnam last month broke down over differences on U.S. demands for Pyongyang's denuclearization and North Korea's demand for sanctions relief. Begun said the United States did not know whether Kim would decide to conduct a new missile launch, but reiterated Trump's assertion that he would be disappointed if North Korea were to resume testing. He said the Trump administration takes very seriously reports about new activity at North Korea's Sohae rocket site and was monitoring the situation closely, but he cautioned against drawing any snap conclusions. U.S. think tanks and Seoul's spy agency said last week that North Korea was rebuilding a rocket launch site. Non-proliferation experts have said satellite images indicate North Korea could be preparing to launch a missile or a space rocket in spite of a freeze in testing that has been in place since 2017. Forest fires on both sides of the Thai-Myanmar border created hazardous smoke haze in border areas of Tak province and those in the neighbouring country. The air pollution returned to 5 border districts of Tak province after relief in the past 2 weeks. Firefighters from all districts of Tak were mobilized to control the blaze on mountainous terrains. The officials had to carry water pails on their backs while climbing on trails to cope with forest fires throughout the night. Local residents had to wear face masks in the hot weather, while visibility was low on local roads. In Mae Sot district of Tak, the level of particulate matter 2.5 micrometers PM 2.5 and less in diameter reached 76 micrograms per cubic meter of air in the past 24 hours. PM10 dust measured 127 mcg. The air quality index soared 264 points. Field burning and forest fires on both sides of the border were blamed. Local officials tried to solve the problem by spraying water in the air, but the pollution was not relieved because of ongoing forest fires. A Myanmar man was arrested for allegedly providing fake passports and visa stamps. Immigration police arrested the Myanmar men for allegedly forging passports and visa stamps for compatriots in exchange for service fees worth about 20,000 baht. Immigration police said that he was also arrested in a rented room in Sam Phran district of province. Police also seized fake passports and visa stamps. The suspect confessed to smuggling Myanmar workers into Thailand for jobs and making the documents for them. 3 compatriots were his customers. Police also arrested another man in a rented room in Krathum Bain district of Samut Sakhon province after 6 Myanmar people had complained about their fake passports and visas. They said he'd arranged the documents for them, claiming they were genuine. However, Thai companies rejected their job applications, saying their documents were forged. The suspect charged each of them 1.2 million kyats, about 25,000 baht, for the document service. The suspect admitted to the crime. Police said that visa stamps were improved with more details difficult for forgers. Water rationing has started in parts of Metro Manila as the dry weather, El Nino, lack of rain and high demand has led to low water levels in La Mesa Dam, a major source of water for Metro Manila. Residents in the cities of Mandaluyong and Pasig in the eastern part of Metro Manila had to line up with water containers to collect water from water trucks. Other areas experienced low water pressure. Manila Water, one of Metro Manila's water concessionaires, said it would give priority to providing water supplies to hospitals, especially those in areas affected by the current water shortage. The government is eyeing additional water sources to ease a supply shortage in Metro Manila. It is also looking for other water sources aside from Angat Dam, whose water supply flows into La Mesa. The Kaliwa Dam, to be built in Quezon Province, has been in the pipeline for decades and is now in the final stages of engineering design. As Venezuela's 5-day power blackout left homes without water this week, Carlos Gomez sought out a drain pipe feeding into a river carrying sewage through the capital, Caracas. Gomez joined dozens of people who had flocked to the Guerra River, which snakes along the bottom of a sharp ravine alongside Caracas's main highway, to fill up various receptacles with water. Unlike the fetid liquid flowing through the Guerra River, the water coming out of the pipe was at least clear. Those who gathered to collect it said the water had been released by local authorities from reservoirs. They added, however, that it was being carried through unsanitary pipes and should only be used to flush toilets or scrub floors. The lack of water has become one of the most excruciating side effects of the nationwide blackout that the government of President Nicolas Maduro has blamed on US-backed sabotage, but his critics call the product of corruption and incompetence. The blackout has worsened the situation of a country already facing a hyperinflationary economic collapse that has spurred a mass migration and turned once basic items like corn flour and toilet paper into unaffordable luxuries for most people. After 5 days without electricity to pump water, Venezuelans from working-class neighborhoods to upscale apartment towers are complaining of increasingly infrequent showers, unwashed dishes and stinking toilets. Water trucks, a common sight in Caracas, are increasingly struggling to fill up because state-run reservoirs are running low. On the northern edge of Caracas, where the city meets the El Avila National Park, hundreds of people lined up to collect water from mountain streams. Lack of water, along with the power outage, has become a major concern for hospitals, which have for years suffered from lack of equipment and supplies. A migratory bird festival held for the past 15 years is to be suspended this year. However, some experts say that avian influenza spreads due to quarantine loopholes. Migratory bird observation centres remain open even during avian influenza outbreaks. This migratory bird observatory tower by the Gyumgang River used to be visited by hundreds of thousands of tourists every year. But lately their numbers have plunged due to avian influenza outbreaks in the past several years. The situation is similar at the Sun Chonman Bay and the Junam Reservoir in Changwon, which are visited by hooded cranes. Frequent outbreaks of avian influenza have forced authorities to scale down birdwatching programs and have dealt a blow to local vendors as well. The spread of avian influenza on farms must be viewed separately from the issue of migratory birds in Korea. In Izumi, Japan, where hooded cranes spend the winter, the local migratory bird observation centres are never closed down, even when there are outbreaks of highly pathogenic avian influenza. Instead, local farms make sure to disinfect their facilities thoroughly and take preventative measures. There's a call for understanding that migratory birds are not unwelcome guests that spread the avian virus, but a part of nature that must coexist with humans.
한 달에 우리 같은 사람들이 한 직원들이 보름 10일밖에 일을 못 나니까.
Jongmyo, the royal shrine from the Joseon dynasty, is on the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites. KBS has found that the era name of a Japanese emperor was inscribed on the walls of Jongmyo. Jongmyo is a royal shrine dedicated to the performance of ancestral rites for the deceased kings of the Joseon dynasty. Jongmyo's main building, Jongjeon, which is the world's largest wooden structure, was considered more sacred than the palace since this was where the king officiated ancestral rituals. A phrase written in Chinese characters is seen at the bottom of a wall right next to the main entrance of Jongmyo. Reconstructed in March Showa 8, this means that the wall was rebuilt in March 1933. Showa is the name of the dynastic era of then Japanese Emperor Hirohito. The same phrase is easily found at other parts along the wall. It was a Japanese person who informed a Korean civic group of the vestiges of Japanese colonialization. March the 11th marked the 8th anniversary of the major earthquake that hit northeastern Japan and the ensuing nuclear accident at the Fukushima Daiichi plant. The magnitude 9.0 earthquake off the coast of the northeastern Tohoku region occurred at around 2:46 p.m. in the afternoon on March the 11th, 2011. A quake-induced tsunami higher than 10 meters hit the coast of Tohoku and Kanto regions. Japan's National Police Agency said that as of March 8th, 15,897 people had been confirmed dead and 2,533 others were still missing. At least 22,131 people died from the 2011 disaster, including those whose health deteriorated while evacuating. Many problems have been left unresolved in the affected areas, including a declining regional population and elderly people living in isolation. People in some disaster-hit areas start their day by remembering those they've lost. North Korean Chairman Kim Jong-un made his first public appearance since returning from the Hanoi summit. He stressed the importance of science education and economic development. Kim Jong-un showed up at Kim Chaek University of Technology in Pyongyang. The North Korean leader was there to cast his vote at the 14th election of the People's Supreme Assembly, the highest legislative body in the regime. It was his first public appearance since returning from the Hanoi summit. Kim Chaek University of Technology is the most prestigious educational institution for engineering in North Korea, with 16 science and technology departments that include mining, electronic and electric engineering. Kim told the university president, one of the legislature candidates, to help support developing the regime's science, education and economic development. Unlike 5 years ago, when he stressed the importance of nuclear capability, he appears to have changed his policy direction to building a robust socialist economy. There were concerns over North Korea's change in policy since the failed summit with Washington in Hanoi, but it appears that Kim Jong-un has given up on the parallel development of economy and nuclear arsenals and instead is focusing on economic growth. The Kim Jong-un regime was solidified when more than half the legislators were replaced in 2014. It remains to be seen how his policy vision for economic growth would affect the composition of the legislative body. China's manned submersible Shenhai Xiongxi, or Deep Sea Warrior, returned to South China's Sanya city recently after completing a 4-month expedition in the Indian Ocean. The submersible, developed by China to conduct deep-sea oceanic research, docked at Sanya 121 days after it set sail towards the Indian Ocean. It travelled a long journey in the harsh and complex oceanic environment, including the ocean's southwestern parts with complex geological environment and the hydrothermal areas in the central parts of the ocean. Besides the complex oceanic environment, the submersible also stood the test of intensive and frequent diving operations day and night, each lasting for about 9 hours. Through 62 diving operations reaching 2,766 metres on average under the sea, researchers were able to get first-hand information, including high-definition deep-sea video footage and samples of hydrothermal vents. The data is expected to contribute to the studies of the deep-sea ecological system. Deep Sea Warrior is China's second deep-sea manned submersible after Jiaolong. It reached a depth of 4,500 metres under the sea during the expedition in 2017. For China Media Group's CMG anchor and reporter Bai Yan-song, who is well known to a large number of Chinese news spectators, to be an interviewee must be a rare experience, while he was indeed interviewed by someone who entirely resembles his voice. The interviewer, Xiao Bai, drew much more attention than Bai Yan-song, who is also a member of the 13th National Committee of Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, when they both appeared in the office building of CMG. Xiao Bai is actually an AI-powered robot. This interview was its debut. Xiao Bai can imitate Bai Yan-song's voice with a conversation of 10 sentences, and that's why their voices are alike. When the robot spoke, the question simultaneously popped on the screen. Bai Yan-song was asked by Xiao Bai about his worries concerning the online service of push deliveries, which caters to people's likes, and that was what Bai Yan-song had just said one day ahead during the ongoing 2 sessions. Xiao Bai was made by China's artificial intelligence AI giant iFlyTech.
很高兴在这里与你相遇。你的声音为什么像白岩松的声音呢？我的语音合成能力对上时。